At Channel Africa, first with the African story globally. If you've just joined us, we enter this chat now at 23 minutes past 7. Good morning. Humanitarian Relief Organisation Oxfam has warned that failure of the last rainy season across Somalia, Kenya and Ethiopia is triggering a food and water emergency for millions of people still trying to recover from the longest and most severe recorded drought spanning from 2020 to 2023. It says dry wells, soaring water prices, crop losses and livestock deaths are pushing communities to the brink. Dorcas Wangu Humanitarian Coordinator at Oxfam in Africa is on the line now to discuss this further. Dorcas, thank you for joining us. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you very much for having me here indeed.
We appreciate your time. What are you seeing in terms of the devastation created or caused by this drought across these three countries?
So across the three countries, so Kenya, Ethiopia, and Somalia, we are seeing people who are suffering from extreme hunger. This is estimated about 26 million people are experiencing extreme hunger. So this ranges from lack of food, lack of access to adequate water, women and children having to walk for very long distances to be able to access very small amounts of water. And of course, we are seeing crops drying up, their livestock drying up, dying. And so it literally means that their livelihoods are just getting exhausted in a situation that does not seem to be improving because of the different climate shock.
How many people are affected, and what exactly is most of urgency when it comes to needs?
So across the three countries, we are estimating 26 million people are affected by the crisis. And definitely this is a food security crisis. So first of all, people do not have access to adequate food, families going without food and at times tending to negative coping mechanisms. So maybe children do not have food to eat. They have to go for days without eating, others having to sell all the livelihoods that they have, and others even being exposed to extreme coping mechanisms such as, sex for food just to ensure that there's food on the table. The other impact that we see is the drying up of wells, which means that people do not have access. So this means that people do go without the recommended amount of water per day, which is 15 liters per day. But also it becomes a huge burden on women and children who have to go look for water. Some have to walk for over 15 kilometers from from the places where they live. And even as they walk to these places, they are exposed to different sorts of dangers. You'd know that, the gender-based kind of violations that would occur on women and children. So mainly these are the things that we see, the devastation due to loss of livelihoods. So yeah, it doesn't help much knowing that we are coming from a season between 2020 and 2023 when we also suffered a similar crisis that affected a lot of people.
Are there unique challenges that each country is faced with? And can you give us or describe to us what some of these could be across these three countries? I know recently in the news, and you do mention that some, because of the devastation, they end up getting into desperate measures, some even into sex work. And we've heard from Kenya that a lot of human trafficking is happening where Kenyans are being promised lucrative jobs overseas, especially in the Russian-Ukraine war. When they think they're going there for good jobs, but it's actually exploitation and human trafficking in the front of Kenya. But what are the examples you can share with us in terms of uniquely what these three countries are facing?
So first of all is that whenever there's a drought crisis, and these are countries that are along the cross-border, Kenya, Somalia, and Ethiopia, they sort of share a border. And so there's a lot of displacement, people moving from one area to another in search of food, in search of pasture for their livestock. So that movement and the displacement puts them in very dire situation. At times they do not have shelter, they just do not have access to food, they don't have access to basic human life services. But this also creates friction because some of the people would be moving with their livestock. Remember that this is a crisis that is also affecting livestock. So even in the regions where they are moving, the people are equally desperate. The people also do not have access to food. And so this creates, exacerbates tensions among communities. And a lot of times there's a bit of fighting and further displacement. Again, because of lack of food, lack of livelihoods, we do see a lot, as I mentioned, like gender-based violence because people are stressed up. So these are some of the unique challenges, again, for women, for children, especially for girls. When there are no food, they will look for other desperate ways of trying to get food. So you'd find people exchanging sex for food. So these are some of the unique challenges that people have to go through.
So, what are the kinds of assistance and further support that Oxfam needs in terms of saving lives across the region and to continue to save lives?
Yeah, so Oxfam's mandate is to save lives and livelihoods. And so at this particular point, we are responding in three different sectors. So food security to ensure that people have access to sufficient food. We also respond across water, sanitation, and health. So we do activities such as water tracking, where people have to walk for very long distances. We ensure that we take water closer to the people. They don't have to walk for those long distances, but they also have water that would help sustain their lives and water that would help them to meet their hygiene needs. So to be able to clean their clothes, to be able to wash their hands after they visit the toilets. We also do a lot of protection activities because during heightened emergencies and crises such as these, there are a lot of protection issues that arise, mainly targeted at women and children. So ensuring that they are aware of the protection risks that are there, but also proactively and actively addressing the protection issues that arise, not just targeting women and children, but we also look at what the protection issues that would also be affecting other peoples in the community, including men and boys.
Dorcas, let's leave it there for now. And thank you so much for this update. It paints a clear picture that we need to keep reminding of ourselves of so that the assistance that's required comes forward. And we thank you for the work you do at Oxfam.
Great. Thank you very much. And thank you for having me.
Our pleasure. Dorcas Wangu is a Humanitarian Coordinator at Oxfam in Africa. 7:30 Central African Time. Let's get our news headlines. Here's Jwalane Tulongwepe.
SABC News. Headlines. The African Perspective.
Thank you, Asanda. Good morning. Making headlines, more than 200 people have died on Tuesday in a landslide triggered by heavy rains at the Rubaya Coltan mine in the Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo. Private investigator Paul O'Sullivan and his former assistant Sarah Jane Trent are expected to appear before South Africa's Parliament's ad hoc committee